Seeing that it's Chanukah, we're going to start with Rabbi Yaakov Abuhatzeirah, because he has a really gorgeous limud inspired by the Holy Ari, Rabbi Isaac Luria, about the 10 tribes. And then we'll move on to the Maggid Zlotchov. So Rabbi Yaakov is reading the Torah, he's reading Miketz, and he's clearly very much influenced by the Ari, by Rabbi Isaac Luria. How do we see this? So he reads a verse in this week's Torah portion that tells us that the tribes, the 10 of them go down to Egypt. And he says this is quite odd because I know that there are 10 of them that went down, right, the children, and I know that they went to Egypt. So why tell me 10 and why tell me, what's the point of telling me they went to Egypt? Mitzrayim. And he says, we know from the Ari, we know from the Holy Ari, there's this famous teaching that into who are reincarnated the 10 tribes, right? So where do they end up? They end up becoming the souls of the 10 martyrs. Who are the 10 martyrs? Asara Harugei Malchut, right? Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Ishmael, Rabban Gamliel. These 10 giants who were murdered, right, tortured by the Romans. And the Ari, in fact, it's before Rabbi, it's Yosef ben Shalom Ashkenazi and others that make the connection and say the 10 tribes are the reincarnated souls of the 10 martyrs. And what's the connection? So Rabbi Yaakov says the Ari had taught us you can't even imagine what an amazing effect the 10 martyrs by their deaths had in the upper and lower worlds, because they were the ones that finally redeemed the sin of the 10 tribes. Now, what was the sin? They sold Yosef, right? Meaning you sold Yosef, you're willing to sell everything. There was no unity, nothing whatsoever. And yet, then centuries later, the 10 martyrs, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Ishmael, what did the Romans want? Right? The Romans wanted us to be like everyone else. For the sake of unity, for the sake of keeping the Torah, the glue that sticks us together, they were willing to be tortured. And this then amended their sins. Then these souls that kept going from body to body until the 10 martyrs, that was it. It was the fix. So this is interesting because it shows how Rabbi Yaakov's experience and learning from the Torah is completely changed once he, probably for the first time picks up the books of Rabbi Isaac Luria. And then we move on to the Maggid of Zlotchov, right? So this is, so with Rabbi Yaakov, we have less of a Hasidic influence, although one could argue neo-Hasidic perhaps, but it's more of a Kabbalistic influence. And then the Maggid, a true Hasid, he looks and we're told in the Torah portion that Yosef, right, he orders to fill the mouths of the bags of his, brothers with food and with money. And the Maggid asks, he says, bag's a bag. Why do you need to tell me? Again, he's looking like Rabbi Yaakov and saying, why do you need to tell me? Put the food and sustenance and put the money in through the mouth of the bag. Just tell me, put it in the bag. And he says, because there's a clue here to tell you that when the Torah portion talks about a bag, it's not just a bag. It's talking about our bodies. Right now, bodies are a bag, a cloak for our souls. And he says here, the money that goes in, that Yosef, that Tzaddik orders to go into the body, is the passions, that fill our bodies. And the food can be two things, he says, the Maggid. Food can be either something that leads to complete destruction, right, kilion, or it's something that leads to to great sustenance. And then to explain how we should really be reading this verse, this Hasidic interpretation, he says, have you ever wondered that when you bench, right, when you say Birkat Hamazon, you say, for every second and every moment that we eat. And he says this doesn't make sense because, there are days that we fast, we don't eat every second, every moment, so what are we talking about? And he says, specifically from benching, from the blessing after meals, we understand that we are not thanking God for the food that we are eating, but rather the meaning of food is that we are thanking Him for the vitality that we are receiving. It is giving us sustenance, it's the source of vitality. And then he says, this is how we should understand the verse. The role of the tzaddik, who is Yosef tzaddik, right now we're coming back to the old country, to Galicia, to wherever, and he says we need to be reading this verse, teaching our people that the way to understand this is that the tzaddik's role is that he is helping people. We all are filled with passions. He is giving us vitality and guiding us how to take those passions and our vitality to the right sort of way, to the way of sustenance and growth, and not to a way of, of destruction. And of course, this is a newfangled way of looking at this verse, a very Hasidic one. And the two together bring us to Shabbat Shalom and Chanukah Sameach.